Thank you. Thanks, everybody. We're going to do a brief sound check here, and are we okay? Can we be heard? Okay, very good. So, good morning, everybody. And I'm reminded some years ago of how I heard Jack Buck start a ball game broadcast, and he said in his inimitable way, "What a lovely day this is." And so as I was walking in here, I met Richard Terry, and I said, you know, if we get to St. Patrick's Day, we are home free. We have rounded the clubhouse turn, and we are on the home stretch for springtime. And so with a lovely day like this, I was tasked with a talk about boredom. That's what it says on the chart there, on the Google Drive chart. It says boredom, how to talk about boredom. Well, there's a problem with that, inherent problem with that. It's like this background. It's boring. It's hard to talk about boredom without getting boring. And so, but the second half of that was rituals. Can rituals be of any help to us in dealing with boring situations? So what I started thinking about was, have you ever had a situation where you faced a difficult task and you know you had to do it and you didn't want to do it? Maybe it was a difficult phone call. Maybe it's a collection call. Maybe it's a call to a cranky client, an unhappy person. Maybe you have to deliver bad news. Maybe you have to confront someone. In my business, you do a lot. Have to confront people, or you have to deliver an argumentative communication. So that's one situation. If anybody's ever faced that, then I'll have some suggestions. If you've never faced that, or if you've never had a situation where your ideas just would not line up, if you've never faced those problems, please be quiet so that the rest of us can talk about this. The other situation is the one where the ideas won't come, where you have to write a report, where you have to do an evaluation, where you have to put together comments or put together a presentation, and all that accumulated wisdom that you know is in there is just not lining up, is just not marshaling itself so that your arguments can be persuasive, so that opposition will melt away, so that the waters will part in front of you. It's just not happening. So my suggestion to you is that we might look to rituals for a way to address these situations, because rituals are endless in their variety. Rituals are endless in their fascination. We have religious rituals, we have cultural rituals, we have political rituals, we have corporate rituals, we have rituals here in this group. And rituals guide our lives every day. And so here is possibly a resource right in front of us that we might bring to bear upon these two very common situations. One, difficult phone calls. I don't want to do it. I don't want to make that call. I'm shrinking from that. And the other, the thoughts just won't come. So before I get started, I want to acknowledge some sources here. Acknowledge first of all, last meeting when this topic was announced, Les Landis, who was sitting about 3 feet from me, turned around and said, Bill, I've got some great articles on rituals and I'm going to send them to you. And so here they are. So he sent these rituals to me. And these rituals, here is The Power of Rituals, How to Build Meaningful Habits. And this one is How to Design Team Rituals to Accelerate Change. Now, you can't see it on there, or you may not be able to see this, but that picture is the New Zealand national rugby team called the All Blacks. And the All Blacks are undergoing a ritual that they do before the game called the haka. And it is some sort of a primitive dance. I've never seen this thing. I'm sure it's on YouTube, but there's some sort of a dance and it's intended to be intimidating. So that is their ritual before the game. It gets them psyched up. It gets them going. It gets them psyched up for the game. But then after the game, they also have a ritual, and that ritual is to clean up the locker room. So everybody participates, everybody joins in, and it's the great equalizer of the team. Everyone contributes. So Les, thank you very much. I don't think Les is here today, but thank you very much for those. The second is this most excellent book. I cannot say enough about this. Okay. So in terms of, there are two critical, what I thought were critical insights that really spoke to me. And one is that in writing this book, Mary decided what she really wanted to do is she really didn't care about being productive. What she cared more about was whether she was happy with the way she had spent her time at the end of the day. And that's what this book is about. It's ways for you to be happy with how you spend your time. And guess what? A lot of them are rituals. So the book is full of rituals. The book is full of rituals and tactics and tips. And in addition to that, she's got a huge website. So you'll see in here there are little signs and reminders and different things and charts and other resources. They're all on her website. So she's got a huge website that backs up the book. So I have to acknowledge that because I started reading this, and there's a whole chapter on focus. There's a whole chapter on routines and processes, and there's a whole chapter on putting off procrastination. So fabulous wisdom in this.
Check is in the mail.
Check is in the mail. Thank you very much. So I should have called her to bring a box of them today here because she would sell them. And this book, I'm going to talk about a mindfulness strategy called RAIN, by the acronym RAIN, and that's in this book. This book is Robert Wright's book on why Buddhism is true, and this is on page 134 and 135 of the book. And the book, Why Buddhism is True, is not so much about Buddhism as about Buddhist thinking. It's more why Buddhist thinking is true and how it speaks to us. So that's one category of rituals. So thank you very much. I highly recommend that book. So let's look at these two situations. The first one is this task. I don't want to make this call. I don't want to make this call to this cranky client. I don't want to do, and maybe it's not a phone call. Maybe it's a financial issue. Maybe it's reorganizing. Maybe it's record retention. Maybe it's something that's tedious. Maybe it's something that's you just don't want to do. And so the mind has a natural mechanism that helps us with that. It's a natural defense mechanism. It's called distraction. So we get distracted and we get off into some parallel universe. So here we are off in the parallel universe, and maybe the parallel universe, we engage in otherwise productive activities like deleting our emails or sorting our paper clips or rearranging all those pens that you saw that Thad had. Okay, we got to get them all categorized, and we're off and we're going. You know, it's kind of like, remember that novel years ago, Lost in the Horse Latitudes? Here, the parallel universe, kind of like the horse latitudes. Horse latitudes are the 10 degrees on either side of the equator. And H. Allen Smith wrote this book. He was a humorous writer in the 40s and 50s. Kind of sounds like a Jimmy Buffett song, Lost in the Horse Latitudes, you know. That's the way it works. It's fun, it's interesting, but it doesn't get anything done. It doesn't move us along. So I'm going to suggest 3 types of strategies here, and I will say that I've done every one of these. And every one of these has worked for me. These are based on my own experience. This is what I've used from time to time, every one of these. So the first category is time-based strategies. They're pegged to time, limited by time and defined by time. The second category is physiology. We have a motion guru over here. He'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's motion creates emotion, and it's the NLP people and those strategies. So we're going to talk about that. That's the second category. The third category is the mindfulness strategies, and that goes by the acronym RAIN. So we're going to consider those strategies in each of those 2 categories of difficult tasks. So first of all, so here's the difficult phone call. You know, I need to make this. I need to do this. But I'm figuring every possible way to avoid it. You know, and phone call. Okay, email. All the notifications are popping up here. All these things that I got to do. So the ritual is this. Time-based rituals start at a time, they last for a time, they end at a time, or maybe they're pegged to an event. So maybe the event is an alarm clock. So the great strength of these, and I can't see that, how much? That's 5 minutes, okay? So we're gonna go real fast. So the time-based ritual, an example of this is, I commit to myself that at 10 o'clock, when that alarm goes off, I am gonna make that call. That's good. That's good. But better would be, I am gonna make that call at 10 o'clock, and I'm not gonna allow myself to do anything else until I do it. I'm gonna sit here in my chair, and if I don't make that call, I will waste the time. Right? So I've painted myself into a corner. This is the most brutal of any of the strategies that I'll talk about today. I've painted myself into a corner. Now, that means that, of course, if it's a phone call, you know, we have a phone call guru in the room as well, you know, about cold calling and about calls, so that you do your homework. You get the script. You make your points. You get your notes in front of you. You get your cue cards. You get your pony. You get your ready to go. You make it easier on yourself. But when that alarm goes, you're locked into that. So that's your ritual. Now, that ritual done day after day, maybe 10 o'clock in the morning becomes your time to do the worst task of the day. So maybe that's the productive habit that arises from that. So at 10 o'clock every morning, we do the worst thing, and then it's done for the day. So that's an example of a time-based ritual. In the motion rituals, in the example of the time-based ritual in where the ideas won't coalesce, a couple of things. First of all, when the alarm goes off, you commit yourself. I'm going to write until I get 10 sentences, or I'm going to write until I get 3 questions, or I'm going to write until 15 minutes passes. Mary has in the book, you can do 15 minutes, you can do anything for 15 minutes. Maybe break the hour up into 3. What's that, the Pomodoro? Okay, strategy, you break the hour into 3 segments. I am going to do this till I get 3 questions, which are more powerful than statements, or a period of time. We'll talk later in the year about questions, but for right now, let's limit it to statements. In the second category, I see this card ready to go up here, 2 minutes. In the second category, we have motion-based strategies. So the NLP people are all over this. Motion creates emotion. So you want to get yourself up, you get into a physical ritual that gets you going. Maybe it's the Superman stance. Maybe it's the Wonder Woman stance. Maybe it's the Tony Robbins has his ritual. He bounces on a rebounder. If you go to his Firewalk weekend, as I did years ago, when Tony was only 28 years old, and there were only 300 people there, you got to shake his hand and be with him, and you get whipped up by physical gestures to such an extent that you don't care what's on that ground, whether it's 2,000 degrees or what, you're charging across that. You don't care how many boards are on there, you're chopping through that. And the point of the ritual is to get your mind off the object of your fear or apprehension and into the ritual itself. So then you charge through it. So let's move on here in the interests of time to the mindfulness strategy. The mindfulness strategy, it goes by the acronym RAIN, R-A-I-N. R is for recognize. You recognize what's off-putting to you. You recognize what's intimidating. 1 minute. What's intimidating about this? And you hang a name tag on it. I'm afraid of rejection, I don't like to do this, I feel defeated, I feel something. A is for acknowledge your acceptance. It's my feeling, it's nobody else's feeling. Nobody foisted this on me, it's my feeling, acknowledge. The I is investigate. Investigate how it feels in my body. Is it a stiffness? Is it in the throat? Is it a catch in the throat? Does it affect my voice? Does it make me unable to talk? Is it a pain in my back? And and you analyze it, and you analyze it as long as it takes you to step back from it, which is the fourth step. The end step is to neutralize or non-identify. So you release it. And you release the emotion, you release it, because when you think about it, the only reason it's intimidating, the only reason the task is intimidating is because I decided that. It's not inherently that way. So I made it intimidating, and then I react by being intimidated. I did all this to myself. That's the essence of the Buddhist thinking, so that you step back. So all these ideas, these emotions, you allow them to come. They're like in a parade in a shooting gallery. They come, they move along, you see them, you step back, and they move on, and so do we. Thank you very much. Take any questions.
Questions for Bill?
Yeah, Bill, not a question, but another approach that's worked really well for me, especially when the blockage occurs, is to simply assign the task to my subconscious mind and then go off and do something else consciously that I know that I can accomplish. And it's always amazed me that my subconscious will come up with a solution, and the next time my mind is free of a conscious task, the solution surfaces and I'm able to implement it very readily.
That's in your book.
Yes.
By the way, that's Dale's book. Dale wrote a book about this, about using the unconscious mind, and it's wonderful also. Yes, that's true. One of the other strategies that's parallel to that is if the ideas won't come, you decide you're going to give a speech. So this is what I do sometimes. I get up, I imagine the audience in front of me, and I start to give a speech. And I start to give a speech on that topic. And I just talk. And what I don't do is I don't go, kinda, sorta, kinda like this, any of that stuff. Complete sentences only, one after another. And if I do it in front of a whiteboard or do it with a flip chart, then insights will come and I'll write those down and the ideas will start to coalesce. This is the coalescence of dust and gas that we talk about now and then, you know. That's what that is. Yes.
Bill, thanks for the presentation. Great job. I made notes and I got the R, the A, and the I, but I somehow didn't get the N.
Oh, N is for either neutralize or non-identification. So you detach from that feeling. You watch the feeling go by. And there it goes.
Of those three strategies, do you find that one works better than another, or do you use a combination of all three?
Well, example in the example of the difficult task, say a difficult phone call, it will be a combination of both the time strategy, because that's what'll kick it off, but also I'll use the motion strategy. So if I got to make a difficult phone call, I stand up to do it. If I have a difficult phone call, I do what voiceover artists call the lead-in. And the lead-in is a mental phrase you go through before you actually get on mic. And so the lead-in might be something like, I've been looking forward to talking with you today, and I called about this invoice. Or I know that it's been a while since we've talked. That's the lead-in my mind only. And I'm calling you about this invoice because I haven't seen anything and it's unlike you. Something like that. See? Yes, and oops.
That's okay, I need exercise.
One of the things that I found that would work, for me at least, is to keep reminding myself how much better I'll feel after the call. Even if it goes badly, at least I have a next step. And sometimes I've shifted the problem to where it belongs. But at least if I could keep in my head, if I just do this, then I can move on, then I can finally dial.
Yes, and the judgment about whether it went badly or not is up to you. Okay? So you decide if it went badly. And maybe, yes, it went badly in the sense that a certain outcome was not achieved. On the other hand, well, I know how to deal with that guy after this, you know, that kind of thing. So there's always learning that goes along.
Hi, Bill.
Hello.
I'm really impressed because you were describing what we are doing with Brain Gym.
Yes,
And I would like...
I thought about that.
I would like to add one thing. After investigate, Brain Gym has 26 exercises where you are moving with your body to step out, to get out your negative pattern
yes, exactly.
for a positive pattern. So there is a solution after investigate how to move on.
Right.
and
Once you
that-
figure out how it affects your body, then there's
Yeah.
a step to move on.
26
Yes.
exercises, you will find one or more that fits your needs.
So that's an example of
Yeah,
integration
very impressed.
of more
Yeah.
than one ritual. Okay?
That's it. You're done.
You okay? Very good. Thank you all. Thank you so much.